Yeah, that's all good.
But yeah, as I was saying, what was I talking about? We were talking about past lives and shit.
Yeah.
With relations. Yeah, no. Basically, all my old beliefs, I'd hit a point where my view on the world became so jaded.
Yep.
All my beliefs were like being questioned. You know, and I legit, first of all, sort of tried to put myself in solitude. But that solitude quickly became isolation.
Yes, which is a dangerous place to be
Right.
when you are going through depression.
Going through depression, right?
Yeah.
And then isolation became alienation.
Yeah, yeah.
But what's interesting about that process, it's almost like 40 days, 40 nights.
Yeah, yeah.
Like Jesus went to the middle of the desert and the devil came to him and everything, you know,
Yeah.
like all of that. It's like you come to realize a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I hate to throw any shade on anyone or throw any individuals under the bus if they hear me say what I'm about to say, but it's like I kind of found out who my real peeps were.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I've come to in a bit of a it's a little bit arrogant of me, I think. There's arrogance I feel when I say it, but it's almost like I've also come to realize like that these issues that I thought were mine are probably more so other people's issues.
Mm-hmm.
You
That
know
makes perfect sense. It doesn't sound arrogant at all. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like, I mean, like, how many people kind of came to me and were kind of like being apologetic
Yeah.
for something that they felt like they've done wrong.
Yeah.
And then justify why they did that.
Yeah.
And it's like, bro, oh, dude, you know, you don't need to say that, man. You know, you're my bro, this, and that. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, right, okay, so it's difficult for you to address something like this.
Gosh, I'm so sorry.
That's all right. That's all good. This timing of it is perfect. If you need to answer the call,
No, I
it's all
need to
good.
actually turn it down because no one is going to be trying to ring me. I keep getting this freaking unknown. Oh no, actually that was my ex-husband trying to ring me.
Oh no.
Don't ring me, bro.
Okay. Don't ring me, bro. But yo, yeah, you know, it's that kind of shit. And I
Yeah.
guess off camera we were talking about a few things, and yeah, I'm actually feeling like that's part of the work that's going to happen this next decade.
Yeah.
You know, because the way that everything's changed, cancel culture's cancelled everything. You know, I could say that the feminine energy is at an all-time high. You know, which is great. I
Yep.
think it's awesome. You know, and also, you know, my hair's long, right?
Yep.
But I've also got this like ratty beard as well. Like, makes me look like a Chinese bad guy. Right? But it's kind of like, it used to be that I would be afraid to wear my hair long because I felt like I looked very feminine.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now after all of this shit that's happened, it's kind of like, well, no, that's a part of who I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
That perhaps this generation of, or my generation of men had, because it seems to be a recurring theme. You know, like attention issues, affection issues.
Yeah.
You know, mother issues.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You saying that is just like, I've seen this play out so much.
Right.
And how old are you?
I am 36 now.
Okay, all right. So I have seen this pattern of men between the ages of, say, 30 and 40, where there's this whole manifestation of abandonment, trauma, rejection, all of these things. And I'm seeing that sort of stuff play out in the lives of so many men around the same age as you and a bit younger.
No shit.
Not even lying. And a lot of it will stem back to childhood and things that have happened in childhood, things that have been spoken over you in childhood, belief systems that you've built up in your mind as a result of what has been said to you, what has been spoken over you, and it rears its ugly head later on in life. And I see it happen so much with men in their 30s. And it's like, is that the age that men hit when all of these issues start to rise up?
Yeah.
It's honestly, and because I'm in the pastoral care department at church,
Right.
And we're dealing with broken people. You know,
Yes.
that's who we're dealing with in the department that I serve in at church. And I'm seeing this play out so much, man.
No shit.
Yeah. And it's in that age bracket that you see it, because guys your age, that particular generation of parents, or particularly dads, a lot of them were, we will refer to it as just old school, but a lot of them were just emotionally disconnected. Because of their upbringings. Like, I'm 44, but this is something that's played out in my life as well, and in the lives of my older brothers, in that I had a father that's old school. Well, I have a father that's old school.
Yeah.
His whole entire generation were just emotionally disconnected.
Yeah.
They provided for their kids. They put a roof over their kids' heads. They worked hard, but there just was no emotional or nurturing connection there between the fathers and their sons.
Yeah.
And so I reckon people that are sort of like in their 30s to maybe their 50s are affected by the way that particular generation of fathers were. Yeah.
100%.
And that's definitely the case in my culture, in Māori culture. It's prevalent in our culture, because that particular age group of men are suffering from depression, taking their lives. You know, we're losing men in those age groups to suicide and stuff, and a lot of it is because of the upbringing from the fathers. Not that the fathers were bad people, just they didn't have that emotional connection with their kids. And it's our generation, your generation and my generation of daughters and sons are affected by that.
Yeah.
And that's a cycle that we have to break.
Yes.
with our children.
Yes. That's exactly it. There's a few ways I've heard this come up on the internet.
Yeah.
But it's like it goes along the lines like, for us to heal ourselves.
Yep.
We need to heal the generations before us. You know?
100%.
So it's like transgenerational trauma needs to be addressed. Needs to
Exactly.
be healed. Yeah.
I'll add a Christian perspective to that.
Please.
In that the Word of God talks about visiting the iniquities of the forefathers right back to the third and fourth generations.
The iniquities.
The iniquities.
Ooh.
So what that is that God talks about in the book of, I think it's Exodus, he talks about the sins of the forefathers. And he says that without repentance of those sins that the forefathers have committed, the generations after those forefathers are going to be affected by curses.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the Christian and biblical perspective of what you're saying.
Yes.
But it's true.
It's
because
true. Yeah.
And I can say that for myself, being a Māori, and that our people, our descendants, our ancestors dabbled in a lot of witchcraft.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
our ancestors ate people.
Yes.
We murdered men and women from other tribes, and we ate them.
Yes.
And we dabbled in things like, you know, spiritual travel and all of that sort of stuff, and we've always sought the guidance of like all of these different gods, God of the forest, God of the sea, God of this, God of that, and that is what has been instilled in our culture. And so to me it is no surprise that in New Zealand we rate the highest in all of the statistics when it comes to alcohol abuse, when it comes to domestic violence, when it comes to child abuse, when it comes to suicide, when it comes to all of those things that are not good things. Right. We top the statistics in all of those things. Damn. And I myself, being a Christian and being someone that, you know, obviously, you know, reads the Bible a lot, and I actually, you know, try and understand the Bible and stuff, I see how what the Word of God is saying has played out in our people. It's obvious if you are willing to actually open your eyes and look, you will actually see that we have been not punished, but the manifestation of the things that our forefathers did, yes. We've copped it in
yes.
our lives.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. And it's playing on. It's looping over and over in my head. What you've said, the in God's word, the inequities of 3 to 4 generations.
I will visit the iniquities of your forefathers to the third and fourth generation. You think about that. You got 2 grandparents, 4 great-grandparents, 8 great-great-grandparents, and then how many great-great-great-grandparents? Is it 32 or something?
Yeah.
So there's like nearly 50 people or over 50 people in your immediate lineage that you are attached to spiritually. And we don't know what any of those people were involved in.
No, we don't.
At all. And so there's this whole thing about breaking those generational curses, those bloodline curses, for things that our ancestors did. Even if we don't know what it was that we did, we have to ask for repentance on their behalf for what they did to break those generational bloodline curses.
I just find it really interesting. My mind's going omnidirectionally right now because, like, I was just about to drop a quote, which I'll do now, from Killer Priest on Jesus' album, the last track, BIBLE, Bible. He was like, I flip through the books of Job to unfold and open Bibles instead of hoping for revivals.
Wow.
You know, like that's, if you want to listen to that song, and actually no, I highly recommend you listen to that song and just trip out on some of the things he's saying.
You need to send me the link to that, bro.
And there's another one, I'll send you a link to that, and there's another one by, remember Funk Dubious? Yeah, Funk Dubious had this song called, I forget the name now, but it's like one of their songs that it's really cryptic, and it talks about, you know, it talks about Adam and Eve.
Okay.
You know, it's like and the chorus is like, if the gods bless the earth, it's got something to do with worshipping money and the sun. You know, like they were already super aware of their condition in the 90s as Mexican gangsters in America, in California, of the satanic things that were already happening around them. You know, it's so interesting that conscious rap's also coming back. But back to this whole thing with the 50 people immediately in your whakapapa, right? That you don't know that you need to repent on their behalf to get through. Like,
so it doesn't affect your children.
Yeah, it doesn't affect your children, right?
Yeah.
I'm already thinking I already know as far back as my great-great-grandfather. So at least that's 3 generations back. Right? The 4th one's probably going to be hard to find out. But they all served in wars. You know.
Wow.
And then on my mum's side, I haven't gone to that extent, but I know my great-grandfather was a supreme Mason.
Oh wow, Freemason. Oh yeah.
You
Freemasonry,
know.
that spirit is one of the most powerful and destructive spirits.
Yep, it's a cunning spirit.
It is a very cunning spirit.
Yeah.
Oh wow, yeah, no, because I study all this stuff. I go to a place called Elijah House, and Freemason is definitely a destroyer. A destroyer.
That's why that phallic symbol and all of those. I'm flexing like I know.
That's crazy.
But yes.
And was he Filipino?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then surprisingly enough, right? And you know, God protect me, you know, like so he basically abandoned my grandma.
Yep.
In even in my grandma's, like, you know, last days, she didn't think anything else of her father except for a loving one.
Yeah.
But she barely remembers him. She was 2 when he left. Right? So she's got a romanticized version of her father.
Yeah.
But my aunties are like, yeah, he basically abandoned the family. But we've got his records, right? We see who he was with. You know, we know from our half brothers and half sisters what he was up to.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, you know, and he did what every Filipino did in that time, and still do today.
Yeah.
They can make an alright living in the Philippines, right? If they're fortunate enough and work hard enough. But majority know that they're more useful to go overseas and then bring that money back to the Philippines. But then majority of the time, as in the case of my parents, they never went back. They became naturalized with the country that they adopted. That adopted them. And so what's interesting is my great-grandfather brought all his brethren, like his legit kin, because they were all musicians. And they played in orchestras, but they were all part of the masonry.
Oh my
and
gosh.
Think, we're talking just post World War II.
Yeah.
Or pre-World War II. Yeah.
Yep.
They all died in a bus crash.
All of them. Wow.
Like, a bus back then was like, you know, like a truck.
Yeah.
A car could not smash into that thing.
And cars didn't drive very fast back then,
back
even
then
not
either.
fast enough to like smoke a bus.
Exactly. But they were all smoked in a bus.
Wow.
And then, so, you know, like what my psychic said to me, it's like, because when she's in doing her work, she's just kind of like this. She's like, you know, it's like she's hearing things, or
Yep.
someone's talking to her, you know.
Yep.
And she's like, I just feel like, you know, he worshipped a god that was not right for him. You know, and I'm like, ooh, that's
Wow,
heavy shit.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Mormons are going to get offended by this, with me saying this, but Mormonism is very, 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 very heavily linked to Freemasonry.
Mm-hmm. Mr. John Smith.
Yep.
Yeah.
Joseph Smith was very high up in the Freemasons.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at the symbols on the clothing that they wear into the Mormon temple,
Mm-hmm.
they are the Freemason symbols.
Yep.
But a lot of Mormons don't know this and don't realise this.
Yes, and they would probably not want to hear
And
this
they would not
either.
want to hear it, but that's okay.
Sorry to offend, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not trying to offend, but like, and I've heard this from ex-Freemasons and ex-Mormons.
No shit.
And the Freemasons that I have spoken to, they, a couple of the Freemasons I have spoken to, they were actually Christians when they entered, Freemasonry. But it's not until you get to a certain level of Freemasonry where you actually realise what it really is all about on the bigger picture.
Oh, yeah.
And it was at that point when they got to that stage where they started to see, well, these beliefs and these value systems that they have operating within Freemasonry are actually in conflict with our beliefs as Christians, and those particular ones that I spoke to left Freemasonry in the end. But then there's a lot of them that get there and it's too good, you know.
Yeah.
So they abandon the Christianity instead. But the vows that they're taking when they become a Freemason in themselves are evil.
Mm-hmm.
Evil as.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Well, I've actually felt a vibe once.
Yep.
Which, you know, I think I first became more aware
Yep.
of, I guess, spiritual feelings.
Yep.
When I went to a charismatic camp.
Yep.
All right, and I think that's linked more to Catholicism.
Yep.
You know, gift of tongues.
Yep.
You know, and all
Do
of that.
Catholics do tongues?
Well, see, this is what's weird. I think because of there's a word for it, but there's probably a word for it in New Zealand as well. But like Philippines is pretty much like genre bending in every aspect of the word.
Oh, wow.
You know,
Yep.
like we already had already addressed what Westerners are only addressing now with people who are trans.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like that's just the type of people.
Yeah.
You know, like, and accept them for who they are. They're not going. You know.
Yeah.
That same with the religions.
Yeah.
So Catholicism might link with animism in one region.
Yeah.
You know, because that church is in a rainforest, and their culture and their elders still hold on to those beliefs. Just like how in certain other countries like voodoo or things like that are heavily tied in with Christian religious aspects.
Yes.
You know,
Yep.
maybe not necessarily the spirituality of it.
Yep.
Because I couldn't imagine them sitting side by side. You
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
Polysynthetic or something like this. There's a word for it. Anyway, yeah. So I thought I was going to a Catholic thing, you know, because I was already aware by year 12 that, okay, there's all sorts of other shit going down.
Yeah.
Because how many dudes used to knock on my door? It's like, oh, we're the Mormons or we're the Jehovah's Witnesses. Yeah, you know, it's like, you're talking about the humble and meek, but you're wearing a suit and you're driving a Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah,
car,
yeah.
You know? And then these Mormon cats were always dudes from America or Hawaii.
Yeah.
And they were real cool, and they're like, yeah, you know, but I used to watch Friday 13th, you know, like, it was like a Polynesian cat from America, yeah.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm just like, a bit sus, bro. So what's the point I'm trying to make? The point I'm trying to make is, I gained this sense of when the hairs stand at the back of your neck, you feel like when a teacher's looking over your shoulder if you're doing your work, you feel that, but on a bigger level.
Yeah.
You know? I went to the Freemasons Hall.
Oh, wow, you did.
In Adelaide. Because
Yeah.
it's just there.
Yeah.
You know, so...
A hall.
A hall.
Okay, so not an actual lodge.
No. Well, no, actually, it was a lodge.
Okay.
It's like the state library.
Oh, okay.
Like pillars, old. It's an old building.
Yep.
I wouldn't say ancient because it's like 100, 200 years old only.
Yep.
Checkered floors. You
Yep.
know, all the relics on either side. You know, turned out that one of the studio that I was working for had a function at the back.
Yeah.
Right, because it's really close to the studio within Adelaide City itself. Right. As soon as I walk in, I just looked at my friend who is kind of aware of certain things, and he just looked at me, and I was just like, "Bro, you feel it, don't you?" And he's like, "Yeah, man." It was like this heavy press.
Oppressive.
Yeah, on your back.
Yeah.
Like pulling you down like this. I was like, "Ooh, let's get out of here, bro. I'm not digging the vibe here."
Yeah.
You know?
Wow. So it wasn't even about the people that were there or anything like that. It was just a feeling that you guys got in there.
We basically walked into this whole lodge. I'm not sure what it's actually stated as on Google, but like, yeah, there was no one there. They were all in the function room. We just walked through the front doors, going like, "Wow, this is a crazy space," and then felt it immediately.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And did you brush that off yourselves when you walked out of there?
Of course I did.
Yeah.
Of course I did. You know, I became aware of that too.
Yeah, yeah.
Through certain practices, you
Yeah.
know, and seeing a lot of different people.
Yeah, because you don't want to take that stuff home with you.
Nah.
And then it camps out at your house.
Yeah, you know that. Hey. And that's what's really trippy, hey. I guess, and it's probably why. And I'd like to hear your opinion on this, because you said this last time we met, but it's like, I was never part of a Christian church.
Yep.
I was always part of a Catholic church.
Yep.
And in the end, it just became like, yeah, same routine, you know, do communion, you know, get on your knees, you know, pray. It's very ritualistic.
Yeah, I was a
you
Catholic.
know. Yeah, you're Catholic
too,
as well.
yeah.
Yeah, so you know, right? And then every week the Irish priest was always asking for more and more money. His sermons were just kind of like, "What are you talking about, dude?"
Yeah.
You know, like even at 13, I knew it was just, what's this guy talking about, you know? That I never really was given an education to things like that. And perhaps why I've gone towards the more alternative side,
Yeah.
which is through sidekicks and things like that. And they're the ones who've taught me, you know, like things that I can do if I feel attacked.
Yep.
You know, like
Yep.
praying to God. You know, it's still like, you know, if that's your spiritual foundation,
Yep.
then that's where you find connection.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna disown because you know you get these mad new age cats. They're just like they're as quick to diss people who eat meat and who are white, as well as their own God.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because they're on some new like hippie shit, you
Yeah.
know? It's like, nah, G, like, it doesn't matter, like, these spirits don't discriminate. You're gonna get attacked if you don't have your shit together.
100%. Yep.
You know? And I'm seeing that with the younger gen.
Yep.
We talked about the older gen, you know, and that's like past generation stuff, but
Yeah.
this new gen, it's like they're ripe. It's just like these demons are just like ready to attack them because
Yep.
they're so open with all the drugs and shit.
And there's an element of that is the dishonor towards parents these days. Like, you know, like there was so much more honor towards parents when, say, we were little kids.
Yes.
But these days you don't have to look far to see how kids disrespect their parents.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a very big believer that if you dishonor your parents, that is going to come back to you in very unkind ways.
Mm-hmm.
I think that sort of stuff, well, I mean, it's one of the 10 commandments too, whether you believe the Bible or not. One of the, you know, commandments is that honor your parents, so you will live a long life and it will go well for you. Well, if the word of God is true, what is the opposite of you will live a long life and things will go well for you? Well, it is you won't live a long life and things will not go well for you. And so these new generation of kids, man, they have lost what it means to actually honor their parents.
Yep.
Honor in general has just been lost in the world, full stop. And it's a rarity to see people who actually honor their elders, who actually honor their parents. It's even with the Pacific Island community, man, like
True.
when I was a kid, like no way would Pacific Island, like, teenagers be out drinking on the weekends. They definitely wouldn't be going to clubs. You know, they'd be at church on a Sunday with their parents and stuff. And but these days, and they did honour their parents, but then there was also that reverence and that fear for their parents, because they would get a hiding. But these days, Pacific Island kids have just become game, and that it's like, oh well, sweet as, I'll just get a hiding when I get home, you know. And kids these days from Polynesian cultures are out doing things that kids my age were absolutely not doing when they were teenagers. Yeah, it's honestly, they've become so westernized, and so they've just become, I guess, worldly.
I haven't heard that in that context for such a long time.
Yeah,
it's a good word.
Yeah,
it's a good adjective.
And I don't use that word in a way that, okay, if you're not Christian, you're worldly, because Christians are freaking worldly too. You know, they're some Christians are more worldly than, you know, non-Christians. Yeah. And but yeah, it's just times have changed, man. Kids have changed. People have changed. The world has changed. It's definitely a much darker place, and it's getting darker, and it's only going to get darker. And you know, you think about your kids and their kids and your grandkids and great kids, and it's like, far out, what is this world going to be like when my great grandchildren, you know, come into this world? It's scary to think.
It is actually
a scary thought, you know, because people are struggling now.
Yes.
You know, the rise of depression and anxiety and all of those, you know, things that are connected to like mental health and stuff like that. The amount of people that have mental health issues, man, is ridiculous. Yeah. And a lot of it's spiritual, I believe, but then there's also a lot of it is the freaking drugs that they're putting into our kids, you know, that are just messing with them and causing them to be sicker. But there is also that spiritual element as well of these people, and it's 9 times out of 10 these people have had something traumatic happen in their life, or they've had something happen in their life, or something spoken over to them in their lives, or their parents or grandparents or great grandparents have dabbled in something that they should not have been dabbling in.
Yeah. It's so interesting, hey, like, it's really, actually, no, it's fucking mind-boggling. How earlier on today I was just thinking about time frames. Yep. You know, we got to this point a couple of years back, and it kind of just ended maybe last year sometime. Yep. Where everything had to be 30 seconds to a minute long. Yeah. Like, especially if you're dealing with like social media stuff. Yeah. Yep. It pretty much ruled the world. Yeah. And it still does, this social media stuff. Right? Then I was thinking, no, but no. Things are changing. More and more people are tuning into long formats like podcasts like this, and then all of a sudden longer things are, people want long bits. They don't want to be bombarded with 30-second bits and pieces, you know. Yeah. That then I'm drawing a parallel to what you just said. You said something's been spoken over these people, or these grandparents did something that they shouldn't have never dabbled with. Yeah. It just shows you the expanse of time that has been neglected. Yeah. You know, like being aware of like how much time this is going to take, because we've been brainwashed to think things need to be in these bite-sized pieces. Yep.
And that has cut off relationship in this world as well. Like, people are not relational, you know, majority of people are not relational anymore. People need to connect with other people. Yes. And social media has taken a massive part of that out of the world, because we've become used to talking to people on social media through, you know, comments or whatever, and through videos and stuff, that we've stopped being relational with people. You know, gone are the days where like you go to somebody's house, like what we're doing now, and you just sit down and you have a really, really good chat. It's all done over social media. And so like human beings need relationship. Like we were brought into this world to have relationship with each other. Yes. But relationship is being taken out in so many ways. And it's no wonder people are freaking, you know, suffering from depression and loneliness and all that sort of stuff, because relationship has gone.
Yeah, 100%.
Connection 100%. Has gone.
Yes.
Yeah, and we need that. Human beings need that. We weren't put on this earth to be lonely. We were put on this earth to have relationship with each other.
Straight up facts.
Yeah.
You said it, man. You said it. Did you see that when on your recent trip back to New Zealand? Like, did you see the opposite of that? Like, are people... I mean, because I've been in New Zealand, and for me, New Zealand's kind of like, sadly,
Yeah.
from the first time when you brought me over there for Body Rock in 2004 to when I went in 2017,
Yeah.
it's like, what the hell? There's a Bunnings here? You know? Where can I get this, what is that green drink you guys used to have? Spirulina, was it?
Spirulina, yeah.
Yeah, spirulina by the bottle.
Yeah.
I couldn't find none of that.
In New Zealand.
Where I was in Tauranga at that time with Rush.
And you couldn't find it.
And I couldn't go to... Because I remember, right, I was walking... Actually, I might as well tell this memory. I'm with Future, yeah?
Yep.
Future. Just,
Whole Future.
Good old Future, yeah. He got in contact with me last year as well,
Yeah.
So Future just goes like this. And I'm like, what? He goes, look at his arms. He's talking about Swerve, yeah? It's like a gorilla, hey? And then I looked at him, I started laughing. He was like, he was going like this, because, yeah, obviously. You know,
Yeah, he does have long arms. They
long
go
arms.
right down to nearly
Yeah.
his ankles.
Those full, like, b-boy long arms.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't need to do that to baby
Nah,
freeze.
nah.
He just, I'm in baby freeze. Like, lucky bastard, you know? But yeah, you know, like, you know, and so it was a bit, what's the word? Not lackluster, but I was expecting to find that culture again.
Yeah.
But yeah, but you know, you went back recently. Did you see that? Like, are the relations still strong in New Zealand? Like, or is it pretty much similar to the Western way things are happening here?
I can only speak probably for where I'm from and from what I see in my own area. I can't speak for sort of other areas, but
For sure.
when I was a kid, we had family reunions all the flipping time. Like, at least once a year or once every couple of years, family reunions, and they were massive, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people.
Nice.
That sort of stuff has stopped. Like, I think the last big family reunion that we had might have been a few years ago, but not even a quarter of our family turned up. Once upon a time, everyone used to turn up. Now I'm finding that we come together when it's a funeral.
Yeah, same
Yeah.
with my folks.
Yeah. A funeral is what brings our people together these days. Or a big mighty piss up, like, you know, that brings the family together as well. But just getting together for a family reunion and stuff, that is, it's not happening nowhere. It's dropped like 80%.
Oh.
Yeah. And so,
Damn.
as I said, it's funerals that we all connect with each other. And funerals are, 3 days long, and then everyone goes. They go off and do their own thing, and then we might not see them for like another couple of years when there's another funeral.
Damn.
That's how it has become back in New Zealand with my family. And I have a massive family. Like, my great-grandmother, there was 18 of them.
Oh,
and
wow.
then my mother, there was 13 of them. And so all of the families were huge. So you can imagine how big our family tree is. It's humongous. But we're lucky to get maybe like a couple of hundred people at a family reunion, whereas back in the days it was over 1,000.
What?
Over 1,000 people at our family reunions. We would have to like book out like a massive big school to accommodate all of our family for reunions back in those days.
Wow.
Nowadays, it's just on the marae, which is, just a small, much smaller. Accommodates like maybe 200-300 people at the most, but it's nothing like it was when we were kids. And we loved that about our childhood. We loved, even like we used to go down to the marae a lot. We'd go down there just to catch up with our family. And stuff. But that's all changed, and I want that for my kids, but it's kind of non-existent now.
Hey, that a fact, hey?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I've been thinking about that with my daughter.
Yeah.
In fact, like, this will probably air after my daughter's birthday,
Yeah.
which is on the 18th of Feb. And so the weekend before that's the 15th or the 22nd, the week after.
Yep.
And her mother and I, we talked about what we wanted to do for her birthday. She's turning 8. And it's her first birthday.
wow.
Yeah, already, right?
My son's 8.
Oh, right.
Yep. Well, they'll have to have play dates when she
Yeah,
moves
well,
over here.
I'm glad you said that, because that's kind of like what philos do as well, hey? Just pimping their kids. For sure, let's do that.
Yeah.
Because I want to start introducing having my daughter around other kids.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, but yeah, like look how big this house is.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's 5-bedroom, massive backyard. I don't know why we don't have enough parties here. You know, like when we were growing up, we didn't really quite have. I guess Filipinos don't really quite have things like a marae, you know, an ancestral home to, unless they're really from an indigenous part of the Philippines where that culture still exists.
Yep.
But majority of people would have their church groups or immediate family, which was 10, 13, 15, you know, family members deep.
Yeah.
Plus their families.
Yep.
You know. And and it's weird because when I was living in Japan for 3 years, that's when I realized, and it, you know, Japan's an Asian country, yet Japan's a very westernized, worldly country as well. That, at a funeral, you'll see a dude just for that funeral ceremony, and then he's gone.
Yeah.
You know, on New Year's Day, some people can't come because they're working.
Wow.
You know, there it's more because they're under the thumb.
Yeah.
They're working for the man.
Yeah.
Like their cartoons have those old values.
Yeah.
You know, there's this one cartoon, it's like The Simpsons of Japan.
Yeah.
It's one man, his wife, his 3 kids, but both grandparents live with them, and it's just one big traditional home where they all eat together and you know, even their dogs talk and shit like that. And I'm like, I think the cartoon was from the 50s or 60s and still runs today.
Wow.
And it's just like, so how come your cartoon shows a very familial setting,
Yeah.
but what I see in real life, at least with the families that I interacted with in Japan, they have no time for that.
No, they don't. And they have a very high suicide rate in Japan.
they're
The
one of the
suicide rate
highest.
there is huge.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're a country that excels in everything that they do. Like, and that's one thing you got to give the Japanese people is that they excel, like, in everything. But then a lot of that is because of the pressures that are put on them by their own families, you know, and just the expectations that they put on themselves to just succeed and make their parents proud. And you know, that's what any child wants, is to make their parents proud. But if you don't make your parents proud, well, what's the opposite of that? There's shame. So instantly you're covered in shame. And so I get it. I understand why, you know, they have such a massive suicide rate. A massive suicide rate. It's really, really sad.
It is sad.
Yeah.
I think that's initially, actually, I'll make it public now, you know, for the record. That's why I left Japan.
Yeah.
Because I started hearing voices.
Yep.
You know, like, and that freaked me the fuck out.
Yeah.
Because, like, I think, you know, when you're in your 20s, you know, and I'm not sure how it was for you yourself coming up as a B-girl, but for me, as a B-boy, it's like warrior mode. Just, I gotta roast these fools. Even, like, behaving ways that I was not inclined to be. It's like, yeah, you're right, man. Those dudes are guineas. Fuck those dudes who smoke them, you know what I mean? But then, you know, I was generally like, hey, bro, fuck nice battle, you know? And then you blaze through your 20s because that's where you're establishing who you are, your career, you know, like weakness is, being emotional, being soft is a weakness, you know, kindness is weakness, this and that. You just have to plow through everything. And I think in my final years, as in my 20s and early 30s while living in Japan, and then getting into the workflow, like, you just hit a point where I was overly working.
Yeah.
And that's my fault. I won't blame anyone for that. But to become whatever the word is, like, I guess I was hallucinating.
Wow.
I'm having a ciggy on the balcony and I'm like, I hear a voice going, jump.
Are you serious?
Like
in your mind, or did it feel like an audible voice at the time?
It felt like both.
Oh my gosh.
You know, so I kind of, you know, legit, I just dropped my ciggy and I went, and I took a step back away from the edge. I mean, it wasn't even that high. It was like the second story.
Yeah.
If I tried to jump, I would have broken my arm.
Some bones and stuff like that.
As a B-boy, you know, like at that stage, it was still
Exactly.
physical, yeah? I would have been alright. But just to hear the voice, you know, and in hindsight, I think the ex-wife realized that something wasn't right.
Yeah.
And so that's how we ended up divorcing. She's just like, I think you should go, you know. But that in itself was also contrary to what I didn't realize was my Filipino Catholic Christian side.
Yeah.
It's like, there is no divorce.
Yeah.
You know, especially in the Philippines. Like, there's still no divorce in the Philippines. So my parents can't accept that I'm divorced Well, they haven't really verbalized it.
Yeah.
But, and you know, I don't no hate on them, but like I don't think they it's just not in their understanding to be like, okay, he's moved on.
Yeah.
Even though they know lots of people were divorced, you know, it's just yeah, and it's really interesting. That just reminds me too of like the energy I felt, the spiritual energy I felt in Japan.
Wow, that's
Right.
crazy.
Yeah, because
That was a spirit talking to you, you know, like I said, the suicide rate in Japan is huge, and suicide is a spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
that
never
spirit
thought
must have
about it
been lingering around while you were there, and it spoke to you.
Mm-hmm.
See, I don't hear voices. I never hear voices. I never ever see entities, but I always know that they're present when I'm in a place and there's something there. I can feel it, or I can feel the presence of evil.
Yeah.
But I've never seen and I've never heard anything speak to me.
Right.
And I don't know why that is. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's because I'm a spiritually strong person.
Yeah.
Maybe, I'm not sure. But I know so many people that have had those experiences though, and it's like, why don't I ever see ghosts?
Yeah.
Why do I never see ghosts? Why don't I ever like hear voices and stuff like that? Not that I'm asking or bloomin' inviting that, but I just don't. I've never ever had those experiences, but I sense evil when it's around me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if it's really bad, like the amount of times I've said to my husband, "Let's get the kids out of here. We need to go because something's not. You know, there's something that's not right here." And we leave, and within half an hour to an hour, something goes down, and that's just, well, that's discernment. It's discernment. But that's trippy, man, hearing a voice actually tell you to jump.
Yeah, I swear to God. And it said it multiple times.
Wow.
So I just locked the door and I went inside and just went to bed, you know?
Far out.
Because I was just like, have I reached that point of insanity? Just trying to raise a child. You know what I mean? And then that was, like I was saying off camera, where, you know, my whole belief systems were questioned from that point on, right up until maybe last year.
Yeah.
You know, and I had to reset a lot of things, and you know, it was just because, yeah, like far out, like I heard a voice, like you only hear or read about that stuff in fiction, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then that's what really, you know, I'd always entertained the idea of more spiritual things, but never had an inroads to or felt comfortable to. But here I was at this point, like being forced, you know, to like address certain things. I mean, you know, for example, at the house, you know, we call it superstition, but from my very small bank of knowledge regarding superstition, you know, I'll apply some of that if I feel in danger. So, you know, they say things like, you know, before you move into a new house, fill it up straight away. You know, like your goods, you fill your pantry up with food. You know, sprinkle salt at the front door.
Oh wow.
You know, things like that. You know, and I used to do that in this new house in Japan. They have at temples and certain restaurants. They don't have a religion in Japan, which is weird, but they operate like they're religious people.
Oh, exactly. 100%. Yeah.
It's really weird, and so they don't necessarily believe in a god. But their practices seem like they believe in a god.
Yes.
So their death practices happen through Buddhism. But generally they're like an animist type of society that believe in multiple gods.
Yes.
You know, gods of everything. God of your snot, God of your clothes, God of the trees.
Yeah.
You know, Shinto it's called. And then that pantheon of gods definitely merges with Buddhism. And that's how Buddhism has been used similarly to Catholicism to convert natives. But what practice I'd learnt from them, which then I know, as they say, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, you know, I just would get a little saucer and pile it up with sea salt.
Oh wow.
And just leave it at the front door.
Yep.
You know, I didn't have any rituals or prayers to say. I mean, I did a Christian thing. It's like,
yep,
you know, Lord, protect this house. You know, please protect us from malevolent spirits and, you know, destroyers, or, you know, and keep our family safe.
Yeah.
You know? But maybe I didn't do the other doors.
Wow.
Because when I went to my spot to have a ciggy,
Was it a house, a standalone house, or was it like an apartment?
it was a standalone house.
Standalone house, that's interesting.
But there was an abandoned house next door to it. I smoked.
Okay.
And that had been abandoned for a long time, still to this day.
Wow, that's interesting.
You know, so it's a new structure in where an old building used to stand.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened there. I don't know the processes of the Japanese when they build in a new spot.
Yeah.
Whether they bless the land or do anything like that.
Yeah. And you don't know what happened on that land or anything like that either
No.
prior to you moving in.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Because I would do that too in my house. Actually, you know, I wasn't lying before, but it just didn't come to my mind when I was saying I've never seen spirits. I've never seen a spirit and I've never heard a voice, but I've seen things like, I don't know if I shared this with you the last time I was here, but when my 8-year-old son was living in New Zealand. He was 4 at the time, but he came over here for a holiday. And when he was about 2 years old, I remember being sent this Snapchat video of him playing in the backyard, like at my mother-in-law's house.
Oh shit.
And that was when you could save your Snapchat videos. I had this app that I could save the Snapchat videos. So I saved the Snapchat video to my phone. I watched it, you know, my son's playing in the backyard. And then I left it. And then later on that night, I get a message from my brother-in-law's partner. No, it wasn't his partner. Sorry, it was the neighbour, my mother-in-law's friend. And she said, "Did you watch that video?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Did you hear the voice on it?" And I was like, "What voice?" And she was like, "Listen to it with headphones on and turn the volume up." And so I actually have that video still. And my son's in the backyard playing and my mother-in-law's sitting there talking with her neighbours who are both females. And I know their voices because they're friends of mine too.
Yeah.
And at one point in the video, my son goes underneath this picnic table, and he comes up from underneath this picnic table. And as clear as day, you hear this old voice saying, and it sounded almost exactly like this, "Good boy."
Ooh.
Like, heard it. Like it was... And I had to go back and listen to it again, just to make sure I wasn't hearing things. And sure enough, and it was like, oh my gosh, what is that? Who is that? It wasn't any of the people that were there watching my son while he was playing. I did not recognise that voice at all. Anyway, later that night, my brother-in-law's partner was giving him a shower. And he just happened to look up and said, "There's the old man." And she was like, "What?" And he goes, "The old man." And he's pointing in the corner of the bathroom to something that he can see. And she was like, "Oh, okay, just you're a little kid."
Yeah.
But she told me about it. And this happened probably like a couple of hours after that video was taken. Anyway, so my auntie, being a Christian, went over and prayed over him and stuff like that. But then at the age of 4, he came over here. And the night before he left, he was here for 10 days. And the night before he left, this thing, whatever it was, revealed itself to me while I was in the laundry doing the washing. I'm in there and I'm just sorting out the laundry.
Here in Australia.
Here in Australia, in Melbourne, in Caroline Springs, that house that you came to.
Yeah, right.
And I'm in there and I'm doing the laundry. And then I hear this noise and I look down and watch this little car, not a motorised car, a little matchbox car that you have to move with your finger. And it's in the corner outside of the laundry. There's no wind. There is no way anything could have blown this thing. And I just turn around and I watch this thing just come into the laundry like a good 2-3 meters and just drive past me and then stop. And I'm like, I looked at it and I'm like, that's interesting. That's what came out of my mouth. That's interesting. And then I was like, okay, So I go into the kitchen where Jeremiah is, my son, and he's in there with my brother-in-law, Salu, who had come over from New Zealand with my son, and their friend, and Jeremiah's friend, Jeremy, who's a Buddhist. And Jeremy, ever since he was young, has been able to see people that are his spirits of people. And I told them, I said, "Oh, do you know what just happened? Like, I was out in the laundry and one of Ruel's cars just came into the laundry by itself." And then Jeremy's like, "Oh, I didn't want to say anything." And I was like, "What?" Because he'd told us about things he'd seen at our house prior to this.
Right.
And I was like, "What?" And he goes, when I came out of the toilet earlier, there was a little boy standing on your staircase.
Ooh.
And I was like, oh, really? Well, that'll explain the car then. It's a kid playing with it. And I go, so what did you do when you saw the kid? And he goes, I never ever communicate with them. I just ignore them. I walk straight past them.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, wow, you know. And then my brother-in-law, Salu, he's like, it reminded him of something that happened a couple of nights before. So he had been sleeping in Nevaeh's room. And he said to me, he was awake at like 3 or 4 in the morning on his laptop. That was the only light in the room. And he said, and, you know, one of the posters on Nevaeh's wardrobe fell off, and I went, yeah, that's nothing though. That can happen, like maybe the sticky tape had just, you know. And he goes, yeah, I know, it wasn't that though. He goes, after that happened, he goes, I heard what sounded exactly like somebody turning the pages in one of those scholastic book catalogues.
Oh shit.
He goes, I could hear it, like someone was in the room. I couldn't see them, but there was someone in the room and they were going through that brochure. And I was like, okay, so it was obviously a playful spirit.
Yeah.
And so we ended up praying through the house. I kicked all the kids out of the house. I said, go out to the garage because I need to get rid of some unwanted visitors. So I got my oil out. I only had cooking oil, but that will do. Oil is oil. And so I had to go through the whole house and just pray through it, anoint all of the doors, all of the windows, any entrance and that, told whatever it was to get out, and then everything was fine. But I just found it interesting that it revealed itself the night before my son was due to go back to New Zealand, because he was flying back to New Zealand the next day, and I was like, far out, you know, that thing would have just followed him back there, because it was obviously this thing, whatever it was that was in that house, was always active when my son was around. And so when my son moved back, he ended up moving back like within 6 months. He came here to live after about 6 or 7 months, and I remember being in the this thing must have come back because our son was there. And I remember taking a day off work and just being in my bed in the front room, just lying there asleep, and then I hear the stereo come on out in the dining room for like 10 seconds. I'm like, woke up and I'm like, what the heck? So I go out into the dining room, and we've got this big Sony speaker out there. It wasn't even switched on at the wall for starters, and it just turned on and then turned off. And I was thinking, that freaking kid's back. This kid's back because this thing's playful.
Yeah.
And so and then my son, because he was obviously a little bit older, he started to hear a kid's voice talking to him when he was upstairs having his showers and stuff. And I remember the night he came down with my daughter. He was bawling his eyes out, and I said, what's wrong? And she said, he said that he heard a voice. And I said, well, what did the voice say? And he said, good boy. And I was like, what? You know, what the heck? And so, you know, I comforted him, prayed over him and stuff like that. But then I spoke to my pastor about it. I said, I think I've got something in my house. Like, I thought I got rid of it, but it's come back. I don't know if it's come back with my son or whatever. And so we had this couple come into our home, and these people specialise in like discerning spirits that are in a home and getting rid of them and stuff.
So they perform exorcisms.
Yeah. But if you want to call it that. And they had never been to our house before, and I had spoken to them on the Sunday and said, Pastor Michelle told me to talk to you. Can you come to my house because we've got something's going on there, blah blah blah. And he said, okay, we'll come over on Wednesday. I'll text you on Wednesday. So Wednesday comes, I hadn't heard from him. I send him a text during the day, and I'm like, oh, hey Moses, I'm just wondering if you're still coming over tonight. We'll be home. Didn't hear from him all day. And so I thought, oh, far out, they're not coming. So we're just chilling at home. It's about, the doorbell rings, and then Moses and his wife walk in, and he's just like looking around, and he's like, oh my gosh, you have a 2-story house with a red door. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, interesting. And then he said, I need to tell you guys. He goes, on Sunday after I spoke to you, he goes, that night me and my wife, we had a disagreement about something, and we haven't talked since. And he goes, last night we weren't even going to come. I was going to text you yesterday and tell you that we can't make it. And he goes, but last night I had a dream. And he goes, and in this dream I saw a 2-story house with a red door, and as you opened the front door there was a staircase, just like your staircase. And he goes, and I went into this house, closed the door, And as I'm looking up the staircase, this young boy walked down the stairs. Yeah, and he goes, I don't know how. He goes, but I believe that a young boy has died in this area somehow. He goes, I don't know if he was accidentally run over by a car, or if you know, he died prior to all of these units. It might have been back in the days, because apparently that was all farmland
It's
and
all
stuff.
farmland,
Yeah. And he just said, but there is a boy here, and he's coming here because of your son. He goes, because, you know, he's a kid and he wants to play and stuff. And he goes, but he's kind of stuck. And he goes, and I need to pray for him to you know, to be able to go where he needs to go, to heaven or whatever.
Yes.
And so they went through the whole house and they prayed, and they got me and the kids to like put oil on our hands and follow them around the house while they were praying and stuff.
Wow.
And because we live in a townhouse too, so there's only walls separating us from our neighbours, and we don't know what our neighbours are doing inside their houses, you know.
Don't know.
And he said to me, just ask your neighbour, if you see your neighbour, if they know anything about the people that used to live here. By then we had lived there for 3 years, and I had never spoken to my neighbour on my right hand side. I'd seen her in passing and waved out. But that Saturday, like 3 days after, I was out the back putting some washing into my car that I was taking to the laundromat, and the neighbour just happened to be in her garage cleaning her car.
Well, she was.
And I was like, hey, how's it going? And she goes, oh, hi, I'm Mel, blah, blah, blah. And I went, hey, just a question. Do you happen to know anything about the tenants that lived in this house before us? And she goes, yeah, they were really good friends of mine. And I went, okay. And she goes, yeah, they moved out because there was creepy stuff happening in the house. And I went, really? And she goes, yeah. And she goes, and if you see the guy that lived there, he's like this 6'4" Aussie guy, big, strong guy. He was terrified. Him and his missus moved out, and I said, okay, because when I took over the place, the landlords told me that it was a lease break because they had broken up, and, you know, she couldn't afford to live here anymore. And she goes, yeah, well, they're not going to tell the property managers that they're moving out because they think there's a ghost in there or anything like that. And she goes, but that is the reason why they moved out, because there was stuff happening in that house, like there were noises. And she goes, and sometimes even when I was home alone and I knew that they weren't home, I could hear stuff through the walls going on inside that house. And I was just like, far out, that's so interesting, you know, just the way that everything happened, and then me never ever having a conversation with my neighbour, and for her to be in her garage cleaning her car like 3 days after these people have come through and said, talk to your neighbours and just see if they know anything about the tenants. And yeah, she told me that, and she was like, you know, just burn some sage and blah blah blah. I was like, it's okay, it's okay, like I've already got it sorted, and that. But yeah, just portals open in your home all the time. Yeah, and they can come in through people that visit you and stuff like that. And look, I'll be honest, my son, him and his mates, they were all stoners. They would begin stoned out in the garage like most nights of the week. So so me allowing them to do that, bad me being a Christian, and you know, but I wanted my son and his friends to be safe. I didn't like the idea of them being at some park, you know, smoking weed and then getting set upon by like a group of thugs or whatever, or the police catching them. So I said to them, you guys can do it here, because it wasn't part of the house. It wasn't like an internal access garage. It was behind the house, separate to the house. So I let them do that. But his friend Jeremy, like, he used to freak Jeremiah out all the time, because they'd be sitting in the garage and the door would be open, and then Jeremy would be like, Jerry, can you close that door please? And Jerry would be like, why? And he goes, because people keep walking past into the house. And I'm like, oh, when Jeremiah told me this, I was like, far out. Yeah, so doorways, you know, doorways can just pop open for all sorts of reasons. And if you don't know what people are carrying when they come to your house, they can leave those things there.
No, and I'm glad you're saying this, because it's making me a lot more aware of certain things. Yep. And I have lots of strangers coming here. Yep. Not necessarily strangers, like there is a rapport already that we've built. You know, so basically I'm running a 10-week course here with certain students, and it'd be good to level up on some, like, just some house blessing stuff. Yeah, because you don't know. I mean, they're acquaintances. You don't know them, like, obviously
closely and deeply.
Yeah.
So you don't know what they're carrying. You don't know what's happened to them in their lives.
Nice.
You don't know what is attached to them.
Exactly.
And what's attached to them can attach itself to your home when they come in. And so it always prays to, you know, do a blessing, do a prayer, or whatever it is that you do in your belief system that you feel that works for you, to get rid of anything that's just decided, oh, I'm just going to chill here for a while.
Well, yeah.
Because if it's chilling here for a while, it's eventually going to go get some buddies to come and chill with it.
Yeah, that's just how it works.
And again, I'll give you the scriptural sort of perspective of that, is that
Please.
the Bible talks about when a spirit leaves a body, what it's referring to is that when the Holy Spirit comes into us, when we give our lives to Christ, the Holy Spirit comes and dwells in us. But then when we constantly sin and we're not being repentive of that sin, we're opening doorways. So it says that when a spirit leaves a body, it will go out and travel over dry land, and it will eventually go back to the house to check on the house. If it finds the house still empty, so in other words, if the Holy Spirit isn't here because that person hasn't repented of things that they've done, it will then go out and find 7 other spirits more powerful than itself, and they will go and dwell in that house. So, and that describes the condition of a backslidden Christian, or backslidden Christians that end up just going AWOL.
Yeah.
That is how we as Christians look at it, is that like when we don't have the Holy Spirit living in us, you know, we are in danger of allowing a different type of spirit to come in, and then that spirit will go out, find some other buddies. Let's go have a house party inside this person, and then that person ends up 7 times worse off than what they were before.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That brings up a memory of when we attended an Aboriginal funeral.
Wow. Yeah.
In what area was that? That was in the far. You know how Australia's got 2 horns?
Yep.
It's up the top right.
Yep.
By the Gulf of Carpentaria. A place called Weipa. Not Weipa, Arakun, which is near the mining town of Weipa. It's one of the last places the mining companies got to.
Yep.
Anyway, so the whole family, so Aboriginal tribes are known to, I won't speak for all because I'm not well versed in that, but they completely vacate the premises.
Oh, wow.
So like if someone was to pass away in this house, and if let's say we were Aboriginal, we have to move.
Really?
And they leave the house abandoned for a period of time until someone can move back into it.
Wow. Do you know what the period of time is?
No.
Yeah.
I could imagine it having parallels with something you might know though.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, it makes sense now why Aboriginals, and I wouldn't say this for all the tribes because more and more information seems to be coming out about it, but I was under the impression that, you know, most Aboriginal tribes around the world were nomadic. And nomadic probably for that purpose.
Yep.
You know, like, okay, well, we got to peace out because death's fallen on the family, or this bushfire's destroyed our God, our land, you know, we got to peace out.
Yeah.
Go to another place.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? I also wanted to bring up this thing about, I'd had psychics say, you don't generally tell a spirit to leave, you know, and, you know, this is in conflict with what you're saying, but
that's okay.
at the same time, it's quite similar in a sense that, because you don't know if that spirit needs to be there, or that spirit is still trying to find resolve, or it's actually a good spirit. You know, it's like it's an ancestral spirit that is keeping an eye on you for a period of time before it's, you know, it's something that it's almost like contractually obliged to do. See, I thought where you were going to go with this story was, you know, romanticized indigenous guy that I am, you know, it's like, it was your great-great-grandfather. It was guiding your boy, this and that. But turns out it was something else. You know?
We as Christians, scripturally, we don't believe that there is crossing over after death. We don't believe that a family member can come back and visit you. Yes, there is evidence that people have actually visibly seen family members who have passed away come and visit them. But we believe that what that is actually a familiar spirit.
Yes.
So what a familiar spirit is that it's not a good spirit. It's demonic, but it will present itself as something that you are familiar with, and it does that so that you don't fear it, and then you start to entertain it until that thing gets comfortable, and then it just wreaks havoc.
Yes.
That's our belief. That's the belief that I come from.
Yep.
And so people tell me all the time, your mum's with you and stuff, and it's like, no, she's not. Her memory is with me, but she cannot visit me. She cannot come and talk to me or anything like that. A lot of people will disagree with that, especially people in my culture, because we're hearty believers that our ancestors can come back and visit us. But I'm not of that belief. I don't believe that your family members can come back and visit you after they die. There's no scriptural evidence to back that up. It's just you die and you go to one of two places. That's our belief.
I hear you.
Yeah,
I hear you, and I wouldn't question that. It's really interesting because it's almost like when you were talking about how the couple came, and funnily the timing of it all too, they had a disagreement, they had this dream.
That was actually to stop them from coming to my house. Because if they weren't talking, so when he actually spoke to her that night, he said, we need to go to Joella and Damon's house because this is happening. He said instantly it brought peace to our situation. We forgot what we had even argued about on Sunday, and we came into unity again, which that was interesting too. So they came, they weren't at odds with each other anymore, because when he spoke to her about why they were coming, instantly she thought, I guess, all right, I've got to put what I'm feeling aside. I need to actually go and help this family out.
It's funny when things are like, what's the word we say in Catholicism? Divinely ordained. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh yeah, what was that bullshit beef we were talking? Oh, I don't know, I forget. But I've had this crazy dream. We need to get to Joella and Damon's house. What's interesting too, though, what the image that presented. I was a bit dramatic about, oh shit, there's a boy going down the stairs. But tell me, when you open your front door and you look up at the stairs, does the stairway lead to the front door?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's same here. If you open my front door, the stairs lead. Right. Except my dad already knew. I mean, it's funny how Filipinos synthesize all the different beliefs together. So it's bad feng shui. For that, right?
Oh wow.
Because it's like the energy flow from the outside entering. So even if you have a downward driveway or upward driveway, has a particular energy property. Let's call it like that. If we want to try to be somewhat pseudo-scientific about it, it's like the energy flows into your house and then it immediately shoots up to the top of the house. So the bottom loses it all. So it's almost like a vacuum. It sucks in. And then again, red, which is for the Chinese a good luck color, and for a lot of indigenous tribes too. Cultures, it's like red is, I guess, because of the blood and the flow of life. Even certain places like fire, volcanoes, sunset, there's a particular energy. It's like it's inviting. And so my dad deliberately designed the stairs so that it stops and then it goes at a right angle.
I see.
So that when the energy comes in, it has to flood everything else before it makes its way up. And then there's all sorts of different things like reflective mirror at the top of the stairs, because it's what you said, it's portals. It's like, it's the sonics of a room, it's the acoustics, it's the lighting. And sometimes I think, again, worldly matters tend to forget about, maybe not forget, but like maybe don't take any of those things into account.
That's right. And it's easy to just laugh off things like, you're just crazy, like you're mental, you're crazy, but
till there's a fucking ghost in your fucking house.
Until it happens to you. Until it happens to you, and it's, I don't know, far out.
Thank you for sharing that. Hey, no, I wasn't expecting you to share that, but I really appreciate you sharing that. Hey. I feel like I should mention though, to continue back on like how you were saying you haven't seen ghosts, but now this was the explanation of seeing something.
Seeing not an actual ghost, but
it
a ghost revealing itself to me through the movement of something, and through, you know, turning on a stereo and things like that. But actually seeing something, an entity, never.
No.
I've never seen that.
I've never seen anything myself. I may have tripped out on like lights. Well, you know when you feel like someone's walked past, you know, like if you've got a pet, you feel that all the time, right?
Yeah.
But it's the same feeling, but no, nothing.
Yeah.
Like I've had a few of those encounters, you know.
I think everyone's had those encounters. Everybody has had that encounter where they think they've seen something, but then they like shrug it off.
Yeah.
But I reckon a lot of the time they have seen something.
Sure. I feel like that's, you know, that's an area of spirituality that spiritual people can engage in, you know, providing, you know, they're well informed to have guidance. You know what I mean? Because I mean, if this Jeremy kid can see things, you know, he's by rights. Yeah, let's say if he was a worker, if he worked for God, you know, like, and that was his gift.
Yeah.
Technically, he needs someone to guide him and be like, right, well, this is what you do in this situation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. He just ignored them though.
No, he didn't.
And then when I spoke to a cousin of his cousin said, Jeremy's been able to see things since he was a little kid.
Yeah.
Jeremy's told me that he has seen like people, like he said one time when he was back in Laos, because he's from Laos. He said he was in a street one time and he actually saw two people over a dead person, eating this person's flesh.
Ooh.
Yeah, when he was like 9 or 10 years old.
See, that part of the world,
yep,
which even Philippines is part of, and I believe New Zealand is part of in a different way. It's like you're talking about like history that's lost to antiquity.
Yep.
You know, like when the water levels were different, the different kingdoms but they're all starting to get unveiled.
Yeah.
You know, like people they're digging up old ruins, and then it fully throws modern day education and understanding of history out the window.
Yeah.
But there's a whole politics about that, why the rest of the world doesn't know this yet.
Yeah.
But the internet's, you know, making it difficult to cover those facts up.
Yeah.
You know, that the only way that you can cover those things without turning this into a conspiracy theory podcast is that they go, oh, that's fake news. It's not proved yet.
Yeah.
But then give it some time, and in 10 years' time, it's be like, if it is truly fact, it'll reveal itself.
Yeah, that's right.
You
That's
know what
right.
I mean?
It will.
And so this is what I was gonna say. You know, like I mean, so he's from an ancient part of the world.
Yeah.
You know, I think every part of the world's ancient, obviously, but over there more so because of the turbulent things that have happened there in recent history.
Yeah.
Laos was involved with Vietnam and Cambodia and Thailand in the world wars. You know, lots of colonization happened there, lots of killing, raping, pillaging, internally, externally. You know, their god, their religion's been, you know, chopped and changed. And bad influences. You know. But speaking of entities, I'd like to share like a moment I had where it was basically Lord of the Rings, hey. You know, as soon as Frodo puts that ring on, he sees these ghosts, And so I'm entertaining this other idea that what that symbolic ring is. You know, like for him to see these dead kings when he puts on this ring, you know. Anyways, like I went somewhere and was going to do something that would have been really bad, you know what I mean? And, you know, thank God, you know, like, the plan failed, Like, it was the only way I felt like I could do it. So to speak. And, of course, just the way things seem to happen in my life, it happened to be a warm evening. But I fell into a meditative state. You know, when it was time to commit the sin, you know, like I was there and I'd fallen asleep and I'd had 4 entities visit.
Wow.
And what's weird is, like the kings that you could barely see because they were like, it was similar like that, except they were dark, they were black, but they didn't feel evil.
Yep.
And I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? And they were kind of like you know, it's almost like the stories of the alien abductions you might have heard, like these greys were like looking over me, thing like that, you know. But you know, they were there and they were looking at me, and I don't know who they were. I have no idea. Were they from that part of where I went? You know, were they just lurking around, or were they familiar spirits, or was it from somewhere else?
Wow.
I didn't feel familiarity with them. They freaked me out because they were shadows, but they didn't feel evil.
Yeah.
And then it turned out further down the track, they had popped up here and there again.
Oh, okay.
Are they the same entities? I don't know. I don't feel like they are.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, and this is the thing about the psychedelics too, that kind of is fitting in with your story with your boys, you know. Like, I'd read, you should check him out, The Power of Myth.
Okay.
By Joseph Campbell. He is the lecturer of George Lucas, who made Star Wars, and Steven Spielberg, who made the Indiana Jones films. And he's a hectic Catholic, but he was also a PhD or master's in gods.
Okay.
So he could break down Polynesian myth.
Yep.
And then tie it in with Christian myth.
Yep.
And all of the mythology to tell you what that does psychologically.
Yeah.
Because that's where psychology, the study of psychology, apparently gets one of its like spiritual influences.
Yeah.
Even though it's a science, yeah.
Yeah.
It finds its spiritual root in delving into mythology. So the story of Cain and Abel, or the story of Jesus, or the story of Job, or whoever, it's broken down. You know, it's critically broken down to help a psychologist understand what mental functions are happening, and then they could break that mental function to be considered spiritual.
Yeah.
Really interesting shit.
Wow.
But basically, he said that, you know, the reason why there's more usage, especially in psychedelic drugs, is because people have lost connection with God.
Yeah.
This is their only way to get into an altered state of mind.
Yep.
To feel spirit.
Yep.
You know,
and that makes a lot of sense.
And that makes a lot of
sense.
sense.
We became separated from God when Adam and Eve did what they did. Right. And when we do things that we know we shouldn't be doing, we sin when we know that we're about to sin. It separates us from God.
From God, exactly.
And we miss that relationship, and so it makes total sense that people would turn to something else to replace that
connection with God. You know, the unfortunate thing is, in that passage, you can get these familiar spirits.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess perhaps in hindsight, I don't know how I feel about this as I say it, but these things that visited me almost kind of, I felt like, protected me.
Okay.
So now I feel like, you know, I'm not revering them or anything, you know, and you know, hopefully that doesn't offend whoever's out there.
Yep.
You know, but I'm still coming to terms with the idea of what you may see, you know, and if it is divinely ordained, it's probably not that romanticized, blonde-haired, you know, halo-wearing, white dressed angel thingy. You know, it's almost as gruesome as when the angels fell in that Noah film. You seen that Noah film?
Yeah.
Right? Just like, what are these things?
Yep.
Just like, they look demonic. Yeah. And I think they were in that film.
Yeah, they fallen angels.
They were the fallen angels.
Yeah.
They were Nephilim, I think.
The son. So the Nephilim. Oh no, they would have been. Yeah.
No, Nephilim was
the Nephilim were the sons of the fallen angels that had interbred with human women.
No. They weren't that, but they were the fallen angels. Yeah. You know, they were like molten and shit. Yeah. You know, and they moved around, and then Noah got him to do his work. You know, to build the ark. Well, that was the interesting symbology, right? When you watch that film, it's like, I don't remember reading it like that.
Yeah, I don't remember reading it like that either.
Yeah, so what are these Hollywood motherfuckers trying to, you know, infiltrate our, you know, minds about?
Yeah.
You know?
How long was it supposed to have taken him to build that ark? Is there a timeline in the Bible? I can't actually remember.
I think there was. I believe there was, because he wasn't told that, you know, the floods were going to come at a certain time.
Yeah. So he got to work, and that would have had to have been some big flippin' ark that he would have had to build, man. like to fit two of every creature on it.
Yeah, hard out. That's some next level shit. And you know, that's what history is starting to reveal itself as.
Yeah.
That these places did exist.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. There's a lot of evidence of things that are mentioned in the Bible as well, including the Ark. There's so much evidence out there that archaeologists and that have found, and that, but you know, yet for a lot of people, it's still not enough, you know, to actually believe that these things actually happened.
Yeah.
It's faith, you know, it's all faith.
It
you
is
know.
faith.
There's a lot of things that I don't understand that happen. Like I'm always like, okay, so God created marriage, you know, and He created man and woman to be together and whatever, and you know, but then there's men in the Bible that had more than one wife, you know. It's like,
It's like,
but
ooh.
and that sort of stuff, I'm just like, okay, I don't want to question you, God. I don't understand it. I think I'll just leave it there as I don't understand it. Hopefully one day you'll help me to understand it. But yeah, I have lots of questions about the Bible too. But for me, I guess it's just, I just have to have faith that what I'm believing in and what I've made the foundation of my life and the life of my kids is right, you know. And like yourself, like with everybody, you know, they all have something that guides their life and that they live their life by the blueprint or whatever, and it works for them, whatever it is, Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, Muslims, whatever. Yeah, as long as you're not harming other people, you know, in the process, and you're not hurting other people, you know, with your words. And you know, there's things in other religions that I don't agree with, you know, there's things that I don't agree with in the world, but it's not my place to judge. You know, it's the essence of Christianity. And like a lot of people probably don't realize this, because, you know, I mean, for example, Israel Folau, he really that whole Israel Folau thing gave all of us Christians a bad name. You know. And like, I don't bag him, because I don't know what was in his heart when he posted that scripture. But the reality is that is a scripture in the Bible. Okay, and that's what he posted. However, I don't know. I think the thing that people judged was what he posted. No. They judged what he posted, but they also judged the motive and the spirit behind what he was posting.
Yes.
And look, who knows? He could have been posting it because he has a heart, you know, he has compassion for people that he sees living lifestyles that obviously the word of God says he is against. You know, to judge him when you don't actually know what his motive and his heart was behind what he was posting, that's wrong. But then I also see it as that, you know, us Christians, we've got to be real careful sometimes about the way we put things across and the way that we say things, because the reality is, when it comes to the whole homophobic thing, regardless of whether we agree or disagree with homosexuality, our job is not to judge them or to put them down because of their lifestyle. Our job is just simply to love them. That is the essence, and that is God's heart. Is that regardless of their lifestyle, whether we agree with it or not, we're called to love them. You know, because that acceptance and inclusiveness is what God is actually all about. You know, we're not supposed to like separate ourselves from people because they live a lifestyle that's different to us, because we're all sinners at the end of the day.
Exactly.
We just all sin differently.
Yeah.
And but yeah, we're to love everybody, you know. Love the sinner, hate the sin. You can hate the sin, you can hate what they do, but you still have to love that person.
Exactly.
And you've got to show that person that you love them, because actions speak louder than words.
That's exactly.
And it's your actions and the way that you respond to people who might live a lifestyle that's different to you that is going to speak to them. That's what's going to speak to their inner being, is how you are with them. And yeah, I'm not into this whole condemnation flipping. To me, it's a very religious spirit. You know, when you start pointing out people's sins and saying, okay, it says in the Bible that you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do this, that's I call that a Pharisee attitude.
Word.
And when you read the story of Jesus, Jesus rebuked the Pharisees.
Yeah, he went in there.
He went in there and gave it to them because they were religious. And unfortunately in Christianity there are too many people that have that Pharisee attitude. And it's wrong. That's a religious attitude. And Christianity, the essence of it is relationship. God, it's not about religion and following rules and regulations and that. Yeah, there are certain things that God commands us not to do in the Bible, but reality is we're going to do them. We're going to do them because we're all, flawed beings and sinful beings.
That is
but,
exactly it.
Yeah, religion is, I can't stand religion. I hate religion.
I'm glad you're making this point, and it's quite timely because we're about to hit the hour and a half mark.
Oh, wow.
Right? And we've only, tapped the tip of the iceberg, I'd love to have you back again one time.
Yeah, for sure.
It'd be good. But, just to cap off what you said there, remember that image of the very, Catholic image of Christ?
Yep.
Doing flares in the Vatican? You remember that?
Yes.
I remember when I was like, that's ridiculous, man. I can't believe that. But when you put it in the context of him battling the Pharisees.
Yep.
Now, I'm not throwing shade on the Vatican, but I've read and heard a lot of bad things about the Vatican, right?
Yep.
So to see a semi-naked Christ, JC, right? With thorns and all, like this dude's going in, no joke. It's like the 80s breakdance era where dudes used to throw broken glass and do windmills on it.
Yeah.
Jesus is there in these very Masonic looking halls doing flares in front of a bunch of old men.
Yeah.
What a sick dude.
Yeah.
And that is what you just said too. It's like, I'm glad you said that because I feel like people with a religion, especially Christian religion, scrap that. People who follow spiritual people who are spiritual about Christ and Christianity, they get bad shade because people only see the religion.
Exactly.
And these Pharisee type cats don't put a good name for people like yourself.
Yep.
Because they're just surface level. Hey.
Absolutely.
That's so surface level. It's like, come on, dude, don't throw a Bible in my face.
Yeah.
God didn't tell you to do that.
That's right.
Yeah. Like, dude, like, what? You saying all gays are bad? Come on, G. Like, where's your empathy? Where's your Christian spirit?
I love hanging out with gay people. I think, especially gay men, I think everyone needs a gay male mate because they are like, honestly,
it's true.
Funny.
It's true.
They are the funniest, most fun people to have around you. It's, you just gotta love them, man. Like, you've just gotta love them.
Yeah.
That's what we're called to do. That's what Jesus did. I mean, who did Jesus hang out with when he spent, most of his time here on earth? Was he down hanging out at the church with all of the religious people? No, mate. He was hanging out with the flippin' adulterers, the druggies. He was hanging out with all of the criminals.
Yeah, the lepers, the prostitutes.
Exactly.
The killers.
That's right. He was hanging out with the people that, like... These people were more open to receiving from God because of their brokenness and stuff. But religion actually breaks people. Religion crushes people, and it's a disgusting spirit. Religion. And it is, honestly, God does not welcome it. He's not impressed by people that throw religion at other people. Not impressed at all. Like, you ain't getting no brownie points for doing that, mate, and you certainly ain't winning anyone over by being that way. Just love them. You've got to earn a right to speak into people's lives, You've got to build a relationship with people and, earn their trust. And at some point, they may give you an opportunity to share your faith with them, but until then, man, just love them and, win them over that way. Because...
Word.
Doing this to people and knocking people down and stomping on people because they do, something you don't agree with. Well, you judging them is actually sin as well. And you gossiping about them is actually sin as well. And God doesn't categorize sin. The consequences of sins are different. However, God looks at it all as sin. So you gossiping about someone or you judging someone is no different to that person that is gay. Absolutely no different in God's eyes. Like I said, don't judge people because they sin differently to you, because we all sin. I sin every freaking day. I have wrong thoughts. Stuff that comes out of my mouth is not good, you know. But
Sinner.
yeah, because I am a sinner.
We are.
And I will always, you know, like I repent often, and I try to keep short accounts with God, but I'm going to be this way until I die, you know, because that's the nature of this world, and that's the nature of us as human beings. It's the key is to overcome that sinful nature that we're birthed with, because we all have sinful nature.
Indeed.
And it's up to us as individuals to recognize when that sinful nature is coming up and to do something about it. But sometimes we don't. Sometimes we just don't listen, and we're like, oh no, I'm going to do that anyway.
True.
So
wow.
Yeah.
Hey, but amen to loving people. Hey, that's,
yeah, man, for sure.
That's so important.
For sure.
And
we should be like, when we see broken people, this is what Christians should be doing. When they see broken people and they see people that are down and out, their hearts should be like overflowing with mercy and compassion on those people.
Word.
That's how we are supposed to be. Like if we see like a homeless person like on the street with nothing, like that should flip and put a burden on our hearts. That should actually do something in us. Cry or whatever, but there's something in you should have compassion on that person, because that could be you. You know, like what we judge people for could come knocking on our door like next week if we're not careful. We've got to be very, very careful about judging people and what they do, because that thing just might test you and just come bang, bang, bang on your door somewhere down the track. And what are you going to do?
Yeah. Well, I hear you. And that giggle tells it all, you know. It's like we are really not prepared. And we need to be preparing.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
It's not being paranoid, it's just being...
It's not living in fear, because we never ever want to live in fear or be moved by fear.
No.
But you've also got to be mindful.
Yes.
And realistic that this stuff exists.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you are not exempt from it.
No.
None of us are exempt from it.
Exempt of it. Yeah.
Don't matter how tough you think you are, you're not exempt from pain and suffering.
No, not at all. And how funny is it? Hey, like just the recent events of January, you know, that had been going on, murmuring since, let's say, end of last year.
Yeah.
If that's not a wake up call, man.
I know, I know, right?
Then maybe, hey, good luck to you, because there's definitely some spirits flying around right now.
That's right, and none of those people would have foreseen that coming.
No.
I mean, Kobe Bryant, there's no way Kobe Bryant would have jumped on that helicopter even thinking that anything like that could happen. You just never know when your time's going to come, man. Like, life's too short. You just got to live your life, you know, just be happy, man. And like, what doesn't make you happy, eliminate it from your life. If it's people that make you unhappy, eliminate them from your life.
That's it.
Love them from a distance.
That's it.
But get rid of anything that doesn't bring you happiness and doesn't bring you contentment and joy. If things that you love, or if people that are around you or whatever you're involved in don't bring you contentment and happiness, man, and all they bring is strife, then you got to start asking yourself, do I need to start eliminating some of these things from my life? Absolutely, you do.
Yeah. And funnily enough, just before we end things, that pretty much answers your question. Hey, for these 30 to 40 year old men, hey, that's exactly what they're going through.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yep.
They're realizing after the rage of their pubescent years into the 20s, they're at this point and they're like, oh, like, what the hell have I done?
Yeah.
Like, I need to address all of these things now.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that there isn't enough systems in place ready to catch them for that fall. You know?
That's right. But then in saying that, they've got to be, they need to take ownership as well when they recognise that they're in that place to ask for help. Because that is another thing that society has done, and especially in our culture, well, in Polynesian culture in general.
Yep.
If you're a man, you are expected to be strong and to provide and to do all these things. That in itself is pressure on a person. And when you can't meet those expectations, then you are going to fall into depression and stuff if you don't talk to someone. But they've been taught that you've just got to be harden up, man, get over it. No, you don't have to harden up. It actually takes a stronger man to tell someone that I'm struggling here. I need someone to talk to. I need help. That is I have more respect for a man like that than a man that knows he's got issues and just brushes them under the carpet and doesn't do anything to address them. That's a weak person, compared to the person that actually has recognised that they're falling into a dark place and they actually reach out to somebody and say, hey, I'm struggling. I'm struggling.
I'm glad you're saying that too. I realise that is the stigma that's been placed on weakness.
Yeah.
Or perceived weakness.
Yeah, and it's not a weakness. No. It's a strength.
Yeah.
It's a strength to recognise your own weaknesses.
Yes, word them up, man. Wow, maybe not next week, maybe the week after.
Yeah, I'd love to come back.
Yeah, we could chop up things on this level. We haven't even talked about you as a BGIRL. We haven't even talked to you about your history in hip-hop. We haven't talked about, the events you're planning. Tweek, Joella, thanks for coming on the show.
You're welcome. It's been good. I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's awesome.
Again, soon.
Yep, for sure.
Cheers, yo.
That was fun. Where's your toilet, man? I need to go for a pee.
Yeah.
Someone was trying to ring me.
Yeah, if you need to answer that.
No, I'm pretty sure it was my husband.
Oh, this is crazy. Because of the darkness, how dark it got.
Oh, what? You can't see?
I think just the last bit was in entire darkness. But that's alright.